here. It's
We're-
been a good week.
Yes. Yes, it has. It has been a very good week, a very fruitful week.
I was
And
gonna say it's not a lot of stuff, but everything's good.
everything's big.
What?
Everything is worthy of discussion, except for a few things. Uh,
Hey, it's gonna be a good summer. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah, it's going to be a good summer, man. Something I was thinking about with this podcast is just about how... Oh, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Unpaid Nobody's podcast.
I was gonna say I feel like we're recording.
Yeah. Something I've, thought about. I completely forgot where this is going. Let's go.
Hard cut.
Hard.
We're starting. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unpaid Nobody's.
We're keeping
Second or third attempt to start this podcast because we're just so excited.
Yeah. We're
and that's the only way I can put this.
yeah. No, this has been a fruitful week. We have a topic that we're really excited to dive into. Probably going to be one of our longer episodes.
For sure.
And a whole lot of news. So let's just run it down.
A lot of good news. Yeah. Starting off with the news.
All right, so new albums coming out. It seems like we have one fairly high-profile album that comes out tonight.
Yeah, I was going to say, to be honest, this is the only one that I would want to talk about. With Pusha T's dropping, It's Almost Dry. This is going to be exciting.
Dude, it's going to be... I am going to wear so many, silver chains and bandanas and saying things like, if you know, you know.
What do you think is going to be the new catchphrase? There's got to be something revolving coke.
I think it's going to be something like, I rock word to Metallica.
Okay. This is what I'm doing right
now. I sell rock like James Hetfield. That's the line.
What I will say, one thing I am looking forward to, actually, and this is super minor, and we low-key was going to cut this out the news because I don't think it's relevant enough, but I feel like the song that's going to have Kid Cudi and Kanye is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Because Cudi made a point to say that he is not rocking with Kanye, so I feel like this is going to be the last song together, and it better be good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I never believe anyone when they say that. And, that's no disrespect to Kid Cudi, but, humans are emotional creatures. I get it. I really do. But, things change. The world changes. So, I try to pay that shit no mind. And, at the risk of having, a really hot take, I think, it's weird to, think about that stuff, right? Especially because I've been seeing so much shit on Twitter, people, shitting on Kid Cudi because of the Kanye beef. And it's just
I have seen that. So he might kind of regress or...
Yeah, it's just what is going on here? Aren't we adults? Isn't this about the art, man? God, did I just say that? Let's move on.
Wow. We're getting old.
I've become the...
We're not cutting that.
No, we're not cutting that. All right, we got singles dropping at midnight. Looks like...
Again, all big singles.
All big singles. All right, let's run it down. We got Travis featuring Future, Hold the Heat. We got Ab-Soul, Hollandaise. We got Megan Thee Stallion, Plan B. And then Logic threatening to release 2 new songs.
You did not say threatening. well, let's just start at the top. We'll get to the Logic. Starting off with Travis featuring Future.
Yeah, I know. This is what the West Side's going to sound like this summer.
Brandon, when I saw this notification, you know what? I'm going to just withhold what I'm going to say. I'm going to say something stupid, and I'm going to regret it. All I'm going to say is, I'm ready.
I'm so ready. I am so ready.
I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm not...
stuff. I'm going to burn down buildings. I'm ready.
So, I do like Travis a whole lot. Not the biggest fan of Future, but, I'm ready for it. I know exactly what this is going to be, and you know what? I could use one of those right now. That's kind of my feeling on it.
I mean, to put a point to this, and, we're going to talk about it later, obviously. You've read the title.
Yeah.
The event happened November 5th.
Yeah.
So it's been months. I think it's time. I think it's time. He took his little hiatus break, and I think it's time.
We'll get back to that. We'll definitely get back to that. I'm not quite sure I agree, but I'm certainly not mad.
Right. Okay.
That's my response. But yeah, Awesome. I'll be listening to this tomorrow, and this is going to be something I'm going to be putting on my good headphones and like
This is something that like I'm gonna truly take my time
Yeah,
diving
this is going to be a
into.
fun one. But another fun one, and this guy's been off the map for a while, is
This is
Absol.
perfect timing. Yeah, this is literally perfect timing because last week we were saying Dreamville is trying to take over.
Yeah,
Um,
not
this might
anymore.
be a return.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is,
the
Top
invasion
Dog
is
Entertainment
happening.
is coming hard.
Yeah, no, this is, and like when you really think about it, like this is, it started with Soccer Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like
Soccer Dad.
we
We
had
get a release
a
date
huge
for
huge date.
Mr. Kung Fu Kenny.
Yeah, which we'll get to.
And it's
That's kind of like a co-lead topic. So I know it's at the top of our little document we're reading, but let's get to that last because it's going to be the thing we talk about the most.
Okay. But regardless, what I'm saying is, Top Dog Entertainment making a little run. I'm here for it.
Dude,
I haven't heard Absol in a minute.
I haven't heard Absol in a while. I'm excited. I can't wait. And Megan Scavone, I mean the Stallion, is
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
She's dropping a track called Plan B, and you just know what this is. Another example of like you just know what this is gonna be, and let me tell you, it's gonna be fun.
Man, all I'm gonna say is this: I think she and I heard the verse. She played the verse, one of the verses at Coachella, and it's hard. It's hard. I don't know who pissed her off, but I'm here for it. I'm really here for it. I hope there's a music video that goes.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And then lastly, Mr. Logic.
So threatening 2 new albums, 2 new songs.
Again, with the word choice. I don't know about threatening.
I don't look. Logic annoys me as much as like a lot of bad rappers, but he's not bad. Like he's certainly not like he's not like 6ix9ine or like Lil Xan or like these people who like can't do music. Like
I wouldn't even like put him even relatively close to them.
No.
He's had, and I know you're gonna hate me, but borderline one classic, only one, his first one. Since then, there's been a drop.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and like, look, I don't hate Logic. I just have never really gotten the appeal. Like, I've always thought he was super talented. Seems like a dope dude. Would hang out with the man. But yeah,
his delivery changed over the course of his career, where he was too focused on his race.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I remember Vine. Remember Vine? All the vines of like just being like turning on Logic, and it's just I'm biracial.
Yep. It's funny. I had this conversation with my cousins more recently because I personally I love Under Pressure. I think it's the best album. I would borderline put it as a classic, at least for me personally. And in reality, like he's always had the subject of race in his albums, but like his delivery just like got worse over time. Where before it was more hidden, or there was more depth to it, or there was a larger message to it. Where now it's just like, hey, I'm biracial, and yeah, the message is the same, but I think the delivery is just so much worse, and it's killed his career.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll see how it is. I'll listen to the songs. I'm not too excited.
All right. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is these are the new releases. Thank you.
We'll keep it short and simple.
Yeah. So let's get to the news. All right. Let's start with Mr. Thugger.
Mm-hmm.
He's teasing a new album.
It's gonna be a good summer, man.
That's gonna be fun. I don't know how good at the album crafting experience Young Thug is, but the music's fun, man. He's good at this. Like he's good at the trap style. It's a very hard style to do consistently well, but he's one of the better ones for sure.
Oh, 100%. I don't know how, because I didn't follow him since like he first came out. I just feel like he kind of took over the sound because it's very unique. I feel like he's very different from the previous trap rappers coming out of the South. His sound is just, it's weird because half the time, I'm not gonna lie, I really don't know what he's saying half the time, but man, this sound good. It just always flows amazingly.
Yeah. Oh, his flow is probably top tier in the game right now. Is flow wise. The only thing is that I definitely get the feeling with Young Thug, like the lyrics just come at an expense, not as much as other rappers, but just a little bit.
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, like he's just not. You don't get a good story.
And in reality, you don't go there for the story.
Yeah, that's fair.
Go for the vibes.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like
although it is interesting though. Something I'm going to just say is there are definitely artists who are worse at like making music, in my opinion, obviously, but do like tell a story, like Future. Like Future tells you a story. It's just the music's not as fun and enjoyable as Young Thug to me.
Well, Future tells you a very toxic story, and it kind of questions everything you know about relationships.
Well, yeah, but it's still a story.
At least that's not. Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay, I'll give you that. It's still a story. Fine.
We don't have any dates. We don't have any. We just know something's coming. Right.
And that's good enough.
Yeah, good enough. I feel like he's someone who's pretty reliable. Like he teases it, he puts it out in like 3 months or so. So
I don't know. Maybe J. Cole kind of grew away from this, and maybe this is just like not confirmation bias, but I don't know. I kind of had this thought in my head, like him, Young Thug, even though they're very different, their release mindset is the same, where it's kind of like it's quiet, and then it's like, oh, I'm putting something out, and then they put it out quickly before the actual excitement goes down.
100%.
I've always thought them in that light.
Yeah, no, release wise, they are very similar.
And like literally, J. Cole has already done it like twice this year. Like it's nothing, and then it's like small promotion. Here's the music. It's like, okay, bet I'm here for it. Like, let's just do it. To wait for it, perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think like in that framing, like looking at it that way, I totally agree that they're very similar in that way. All right, The Boys, our recent topic. We covered that episode. Very timely.
Yeah, literally, it was perfect.
Did you watch the Coachella set?
I watched the later half. I think roughly I caught the later half.
Yeah. Oh, Brockhampton confirmed at the end of their set at Coachella, they confirmed that a new album was coming, like the last Brockhampton album.
So now that you mentioned it, I actually have a question for you because I did, like I said, I watched the second half. At the end, it was this video, and the video, obviously, it's not long and it's not meant to explain that much, but I was left pretty confused, and I think I texted you about it, and I was unsure. So the way the video was set up, they're all sitting in a room, and wait, who's talking in the front? I just
Kevin.
drew a blank.
It's Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin's talking in the front to everybody, and he's saying like, "Oh, this isn't a solo album that I made. This is an album that I made for us, and how I feel about Brockhampton." So like, is this a solo album or is this a Brockhampton album? Is he presenting it to all of them?
I definitely think it's a group project because it says it is. Part of me wants to be like, it could be just a narrative device. It could just be like a framing or a setup or something to just create drama. Because with Brockhampton, and this is something we kind of talked about a bit last week, was it seems like a whole lot of their act is like a performance. And so I never doubt that this could just be something meant to like be an emotional hook into the album. But if it is real, which like is reasonable to think, I just think like he maybe just created something that's like meant to be expanded on, like a demo version of the album.
And then they kind of fill in the spaces with everybody.
Yeah, because like I remember when I was making that video that's on my YouTube channel. Look for it, Brandon Scapel. They talked about their creative process, and they said like that's usually how it happens. Like Kevin or one of them will like make something, like a short like demo of it, and they'll bring it to the group, and then like the group will decide if they want to get on it, and then that decides like if it's going to get on the project, which I think is a really interesting creative process because like it's kind of foolproof. So I think like that's probably like what I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Also, we need to go back and link that video. I forgot he made that. I
Yeah.
watched that so long ago.
Yeah. That was quarantine hobby. I made 4 videos.
Man.
I have an essay that I haven't finished yet about music actually. It was a examination of the last tracks on every Run the Jewels album. And I just never
Only
finished.
you could do that.
Yeah. And I just never finished the essay. It's like almost done. If I like really wanted to focus on it, I could probably finish the essay in the afternoon. But like it keeps escaping me. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that this weekend.
You're using the word essay. It's a very like broad term. I feel like, are we talking about like a short essay, like a couple pages, or are we talking about like something you've been working on?
So like I have not been
Like years,
conceived.
and this is like some 10-page.
It's long. Like I'll pull it up right now just to show you like how many words. But like it's not something I've been working on consistently. It's something I would like maybe pick away at every couple months or so.
Got you.
But
Okay.
it is right now just short of 10 pages in a Google Doc. But spaced, it's at 25 points, so it's a bit bigger. So it's probably like 6 in like normal.
Even still,
Yeah.
That's basically an assignment that I have for school.
Yeah.
10-page final. That's what I have.
I really love, I'm just going to say this really quick because I think you'll appreciate it. I really love like the way I set it up because I started off like it's a video essay about the movie Inception.
Okay.
And
interesting shift.
Yeah, because it's like it's about the first line is I want you to think about how many times the end of a story changes the way that you see the whole thing. And basically the idea is that like the end of a story is the first time you can see a story for the whole thing. Right? You see it where everything is going to go. So that last scene in Inception helps you understand like the entire movie before it. And that's my thesis with the Run the Jewels tracks. Like the last track on all of their albums helps you get a greater appreciation for the album that comes before it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to send me whatever you have created so far.
My favorite thing is like as I go through each album, like for the second, third, and fourth album, I say released in the middle of a national crisis. Like I say the same exact thing. Like Run the Jewels 3 is a thoughtful and aggressive dive into the fractured American psyche of the time. And I just like every time I say it, like in the video, it's just gonna get more and more distorted and manic. Because like Run the Jewels 2 was released during Ferguson.
Right.
Run the Jewels 3 was released.
It's oddly timed. You're right.
Yeah, Run the Jewels 3 was released in the exact middle of Donald Trump's election and his inauguration, and Run the Jewels 4 was released during the riots of 2020. All of them.
They really know what they're doing.
Yeah. So like, I thought that was like an interesting kind of
so
thing.
basically, what you're saying is we need to start another riot so they can release another album.
Yeah, every time that is true. That is like it's like Santa Claus. Like you leave milk and cookies out. Like if you set a cop car on fire, Run the Jewels will drop an album. And if you cite 2, Freddie Gibbs will do it too.
I can't believe you just compared that to Santa. Bro, I heard the wildest thing literally because 420 just passed. And one of my friends was like, "Did you leave cookies out for Snoop Dogg?" And I was like, "Bro, how am I 25 and I've never heard something like this before?"
Yeah.
Like literally, like Santa comes overnight, just Snoop Dogg drops off overnight. There's a couple nuts for you.
Yeah, no, that's the thing I see on Facebook. I remember when I was like 19, someone the thing that got me was like someone was like, "Oh, did you leave cookies out for Seth Rogen?"
Yeah, and I was like, it's either Snoop Dogg, Seth Rogen, or Wiz Khalifa, and I was like, they're the 3 wise men that came during the night.
Yeah, the 420 wise men.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the next thing because I actually think this is really cool, and if I get some money back, I will probably be investing in this. Wu-Tang and Nas are going on a tour together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
So I almost got to see Wu-Tang at Riot Fest one year. I had something come up at the last minute, and I had to sell the ticket. So I've been trying to see them ever since because I love Wu-Tang. I mean, who doesn't? Like, it's almost like a cliche. And, you know, I'm not, like, the hugest Nas fan in the world, but, like, I still really fuck with Nas. Like, it's just...
great names just get that recognition.
Yeah, he's just... It's one of those people. It's, like, one of those people that, like... It's almost like... It's almost not forgettable, but it's almost like he's just, like, part of the scenery because, you know, everyone tells you about how great his albums are, and then, like, they are. So, like, you don't really... Because, like, if they were disappointing or if they were surprising, you would probably have, like, a much more... I would probably have a much more emotional connection, but it's just, like, everyone always said, like, oh, the Nas albums are incredible. And then I listened to them, I'm like, wow, these albums are incredible.
These are incredible.
And it's just, like, I moved on.
It's funny that you say it, because I low-key feel the same thing about Wu-Tang, and I didn't want to say it at first, but, like, obviously, I listen to Wu-Tang, and, like, if it comes on... I'll probably recognize, like, the song. It might take me a second. Like, I never really sat down and just, like, listened to all their music, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, I never went through, like, an aggressive Wu-Tang phase. Thank God. Nothing's worse than a white dude going through a Wu-Tang phase.
Look, you're not...
I'm Latino. It's no different.
We're going to focus on... I was going to give you some kind of leeway, some kind of color to it, you know. But...
Yeah, I know, but, like, there's no Latinos in Wu-Tang.
Hey, Cuban and Italian. It's a good mixture.
It is a good... It's
both,
a nice...
Hey, you rock with black people, so, like,
it's a good crime mix. It's a very good mix for crime. Like, it's... But, yeah, no, it's a tour I low-key really want to go to. Like, to meet the definition of, like, a sum of its... More than the sum of its parts.
Mm-hmm. Huh? Who knows? If they come to Chicago, we might just do it.
Yeah, no, I would totally, like, get cheap seats for that.
Dude, I know this is kind of on topic, but we were texting about it the other day. I'm serious. I want to go to a weekend concert now. I'm adding him to the list of like, must see.
Yeah, no, he's on my must see, especially now that, like, I have a girlfriend. Because, like, it's definitely, like, weird to go see The Weeknd with, like, your friends. Just like, yeah, you know, my homies are gonna go see The Weeknd. That's weird.
It definitely doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, which is weird because, like, he's one of those. He's certainly one of those artists that, like, there's no shame in talking about him. Every person I know who really loves music and the kind of music we like, everyone loves him.
Correct.
But, like, yeah, it's kind of weird. I wouldn't go see it with my friends.
I would say this: I wouldn't do it. But, like, if I was there and I saw someone doing it, people would be like, "Okay, I get it."
Yeah,
I'll let it slide.
Yeah. You know who when he announces his inevitable tour after the album, I'm gonna go see Brent Faiyaz. I really want to see him live.
Ooh, okay. No, yeah, that's 100% you don't see.
I want to see if he can. I want to see if he's as good a singer live. That's my thing.
I think he is.
I believe it. I 100% believe it, especially because, like, I've heard he puts on a very, very good live show. So I just assume when people say that includes, like, he's a very good singer. All right. So one thing, I don't have much to say about this, but I do think it's important that we just bring it up, and that is the person who sold Mac Miller fentanyl. You know, in all intents and purposes, his killer was sentenced to damn near 11 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and, like,
do you think that's long enough, or dare I even ask that?
You know, I just don't like prisons. Like, I have some very, very strong negative opinions about the American prison system that it's hard for me to ever, like, support someone going there. But, like, this is, even in an ideal world, this is the kind of person who needs to see punishment for his action. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of punitive justice, but, like, lacing drugs is, like, a unique evil to me. Not the worst evil, but, like, it's a really bad thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. What about you?
I was thinking about it. Initially, I said it was too short, but I think my initial thought was because I was more thinking about like Mac Miller and how upset I was feeling about it. Um, so with that being said, I will say at first I was like, I wish he had like 20, 30. Like, who cares? It's like give him the max sentence or whatever. Just because I was upset, but like after I thought about it, I don't know. 11 years is a very long time,
Yeah,
and
11 years
you
is a
can always
very, very
make
long
it
time.
purpose. It could be a lot of details that went into it. By all means, I wasn't there to see the sentencing or the
Yeah,
details behind it. I didn't follow it like that. So if that's what the justice system kind of gave him, then I don't know. I
it,
can't
it
be
it's
sensitive.
it's hard not to look at it and be like, yeah, this is something I'm okay with, just because like to me, like every time someone passes from a uh, a drug related thing, to me every time it's like Mac Miller dying. So like it's hard not to rally around the idea of people doing that to people, like having justice served. It's just
Yeah.
I have opinions about the prison system.
Okay.
All right, let's
That's
move on because there's only one thing.
understandable. What a transition.
What if?
How we turn
Yeah,
political for a
yeah,
second.
yeah. We
Um,
just gotta. Oof. All right.
take that off.
uh,
What did you look? I'm about to do one of these things. Where were you when you heard the news, Brandon? What were you
I
doing when
was
you found out Kendrick Lamar was dropping May 13th?
I was at work. Wait, when did it happen again?
Oh, what day was that? What day?
I deadass can't remember.
It was either Monday or Tuesday. I know that it was either Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I think I was at work. I think I was like, in a meeting, and I got out of the meeting, and I had my phone blew up. And
Yeah,
my immediate reaction is, boy, what a gift I'm getting on my 30th birthday.
it's perfect. It's amazing. I lost it. Like I had just went on break. Like literally, I was walking to go get lunch. I'm waiting in line to get the food, and I just get one single like message in a group chat. Not even like some messages off of Twitter. Like everything was blowing up within seconds of him tweeting it. Somebody in my group chat was just like, "Yeah, Kendrick just dropped a release date," and I'm so serious. All I put was "OH" period. Like I was just like, "Oh," like I didn't even know how to react.
Yeah. Well, because it does feel inevitable.
Man,
I finally
I'm
remember the
sorry.
thing I was trying to say in the beginning that we cut out.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
Jesus, yeah, okay.
yeah. So one of the things about having a podcast is that sometimes you're gonna say things and you sound like an idiot, and sometimes you're gonna say things and you sound like a genius. So like all the times in the last 10 weeks that we've said like, Kendrick's probably dropping, we sound very smart right now.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It all paid off.
We'll inevitably sound stupid, but then we'll sound smart again.
Um, I don't even. I don't know what to think. I don't think there's been any teasers, any beats, drops, nothing. Like
No,
I don't know
there's been
anything
no
out.
creative teasers as far as I've seen. Okay, it's Mr. Morale or is it what's the name of this?
Oh yeah, yeah. Jesus, I didn't put the
Yeah,
name in. Take
Mr.
a look.
Morale and the Big Steppers.
Like I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
And he's releasing it under the name
yeah,
of Oklahoma, the thing that he was teasing 2 years ago when no one knew what it meant.
Oklahoma.
Oh, sorry, Oklahoma. Like I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. I don't know what it's mixing, but I feel like it has something to do with Obama, or it could just be something made up. I have no idea.
I think it's like well, I think we'll definitely find out.
Yes, yes, we will find out.
uh, so my first takeaway is because I've been dying to talk to you about this. My first takeaway is that this is definitely a concept album.
Yes,
Although I
the
guess
energy that we've received so far definitely seems like a concept album, but
yeah,
everything he drops.
yeah. But so has been his last three. But I also like there's definitely a pattern with Kendrick and like strange names that like makes sense with like within the context of like the music, like once you hear it. Like I remember having like a react, like being like that seems like I don't get the name when like To Pimp a Butterfly was dropped. Like when it
Which
was
name?
announced that it was going to be called To Pimp a Butterfly,
Oh yeah,
I was like, I don't get it. Like I don't know what that could mean. Like Damn was also like, what does that mean? Uh,
right.
but I think it's just like a much more sounds much more like an album name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it's going to be one of the.
Is he
Again,
releasing it?
everything he drops is a big one, but I feel like it's only one of the big ones. What
Is he
happened?
releasing it under Oklahoma, or is this his last one as Kendrick Lamar?
The thing is, the note that I saw, I believe, like at the end of the letter where it says from, I'm pretty sure it said Oklahoma. And I don't remember seeing the letters TDE anywhere. And
Yeah,
I
is
forget,
it?
you can literally just go to Oklahoma.com. Hold on. Let me just
Yeah, I pulled it up right now. PG
Yeah,
Lang.
PG Lang. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is technically under the new stuff.
yeah. Well,
Under
yeah, it could.
that's
Yeah, it's definitely. It's like most labels will let you put stuff out under your own imprint as long as like the terms of the contract that they have with you are still met. You know what I mean?
right. The
So
thing that I'm curious about, I remember him saying the next album was gonna be the last one on TDE. So what's going on?
I wonder. I think this still will be. I mean, I have the Pitchfork article. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, he said that this is his last one.
For TDE at
Yeah.
least.
So in the letter he wrote about it last August, he said that this was going to be his last album. So I think people are just assuming that this is it, and PG Lang is probably just going to be his imprint on it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% think that is. Like I think like all of his future projects will be under uh PG Lang. Uh but I think it's just an imprint and it's going to be under both that and TDE.
Okay.
What are your reactions to the title? Is it just complete like I have no idea what this could mean?
No, yeah, I kind of came to the understanding and the acceptance that I will never be prepared, Kendrick. Like there's no steps you can take to really like wrap your head around what could happen. Like for the most part, when you look at other artists, even ones that we talked about today, like when Young Thug drops, I'm not gonna expect a concept album. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a vibey album for the summer.
I mean,
You
how
can
many times
easily
do we say like, yeah, we know what this is going to be.
right.
And like that's
I
just
just feel
much
like
harder with Kendrick.
exactly. I have no idea what it's gonna be because at least when he first came to the scene, I had no really previous examples to go off of or experience, but like I kind of picked him up doing the Good Kid, Mad City, and obviously I went back to listen to the previous stuff. But when I started off there, like there's no idea what I'm about to get myself into, and then you move forward with some of his other albums, like for example the Untitled one, if you want to consider that one of the albums. I had no idea. Like I was like, oh, it's going to be a concept
Oh yeah,
album.
I
It's
always
just a bundle of almost throwaways, but still good.
every time I think about that album, like first off, I kind of forget it exists because I think Kendrick Lamar is defined by these big idea pushing albums. Like I think
Hmm.
like that's like his thing. And every time I think back to his albums, I just don't think of that one because it's just not that. It's literally just like a bunch of discarded B sides, but those
Yeah,
B sides are like better than most people's albums.
that is also very true. But that's my point exactly. Like whenever something comes out, I feel like like I'm prepared. I know what's going to happen. I can go into this with an idea. Like obviously, when you first listen to an album, like you have to almost set the mood, if that makes sense. Like sometimes you need to really know, like, oh, this is going to be a really good album, a deep album. I need to like sit down and actually listen. I can't just like turn it on while I'm commuting and expect to actually enjoy it fully. Like
Yeah,
I don't know when this drops May 13th. I'm just gonna have to press play and just kind of go for it because I have no idea what mood I need to be in.
yeah, exactly. I took the day off that day because it is my birthday,
True.
and I will be listening to that the second I wake up. I will probably stay up.
Listen to it.
I'll probably stay up. I'll probably stay up and listen to it. Yeah, 100%. Like 100. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Never mind. So is there anything that within like the reasonable expectations that this is going to be like an art piece, for lack of a better phrase? Is there anything that you want from this, like specifically?
I want features that he never had before.
Yeah, that's what I want.
That's literally that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want features that are different from his previous features. I want to, obviously, because I like these artists as well.
Yeah, obviously.
But I will want him to do something like huge, like maybe with either Kanye or J. Cole. Yeah. I want at least one song. That would be huge if it was either one of them. I want him to have a song with an R&B artist, either Brett Faiyaz, Daniel Caesar, or of course Frank Ocean.
Yeah, I mean a Kendrick Frank Ocean is
right.
That's obscene. That's obscene. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fair.
I almost think the nature of those two artists. Oh, I'm sorry. I just think like that's like almost impossible because they're both like hermits.
Right. But again, like if this was like my ideal, like this is what I would want, it would be those type of features of that level. Because if anyone can do it, it's gonna be Kanye. I mean, Kendrick.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like that's kind of the thing. It's just like there's a bunch of features I've always wanted from a Kendrick project, and then there are some that I think have just become recently relevant, right? Like for a long time, it's funny because I was just listening to the Childish Gambino mixtape Royalty, right? And there's this song that has Schoolboy Q and Absol, and I remember every time we would listen to this song, me and everyone around me, Jeff, and like all of our friends who like listen to stuff like that, we were always like, Kendrick and Gambino seems like not a good fit. Like they're both great, but like not a good fit. But after like the last album and specifically This Is America, I would really like Childish Gambino on this album. Or even have him do like, you know what? Imagine like if he had Childish Gambino do some of that funk stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, like that could be next level.
Ooh, man.
Yeah, like imagine like we get like fucking
what's it called? Stupid with all that.
Awaken My Love. Like another thing like, is
real stupid.
Another one is, and this one doesn't exactly count because Kendrick is featured on their albums that have been on songs together. But I've always wanted a Kendrick song featuring The Weeknd, and like especially because that Damn has song Love with that artist Zakari.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like when you listen to it, I think like they're definitely emulating that Weeknd sounds.
So why not just get The Weeknd?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that's just what I want. And also I would love at least one track that has like every member of TDE on it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because last time, not last time, I don't know if it was the last time, but I recently was listening to one of their songs. I believe it was on J-Rock's old album that has Absol, J-Rock himself. It was pretty much everyone. Schoolboy Q, I think SZA may have had a line. It's the... Here, now I'm going to look for it. Give me a second. This is one of the like hippie remixes, and it includes everybody.
Oh, is it
Isaiah Rashad.
Oh yeah.
And so if one of those, like, yeah, that would be nice. Those would be dope.
Fuck. I was just thinking of something. Oh, something that I think is a possibility. Not something I would generally be excited for, but now that I think about it under the guiding hand of Kendrick Lamar, I think it's possible we maybe see like an Eminem feature.
I don't know if I want that.
It's certainly not on my wish list, but just like knowing Kendrick's roots with Aftermath, the fact that they're friends, they just performed in the Super Bowl halftime show together. I think it's likely. And the thing about Eminem is just like it's such a wide spectrum. Like
It is.
You know, like some of his stuff is like some of the best songs in the genre, and some of his stuff is not.
It's not. Literally, I was like, yep, it is
But
not.
like, if there's an artist that can pull that good side out of him, is there anyone better than Kendrick Lamar? Like,
you have a good point.
yeah, so I think that's something that could probably be seen, and I can definitely see him. It does seem like he always likes to have at least like one showstoppy feature on each thing. Like I remember U2 on Damn.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my
That's
thought.
what I'm saying. I need one rager. Like,
I think I need a Humble.
exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But every single song of his have had at least one really good high energy song. Good Kid, Mad City has a ton. Section 80 has a ton. Damn has Humble, DNA.
I mean,
Element
okay,
is like
yeah.
great. Like,
Exactly.
I know it's like very.
I
I know it's like slow and kind of laid back, but it kind of gets me hyped.
It's
Like,
yeah,
it doesn't sound hyped, but it gets you hyped. Like,
yeah, it has the perfect mixture with the lyrics.
yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta slap someone. Like, hey, we saw it recently.
Yeah.
It's all coming full circle.
Hey, man.
You just got a Will Smith.
He's just Will Smith him all day. I would love if he was just like, get Will Smith on here.
And he probably could talk him into it.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Like, I don't think Will Smith's a bad rapper. I gotta be honest. I think like a lot of his older stuff, like yeah, it's corny, but like he's talented. Like,
could you imagine a Will Smith feature? We sitting here talking about all these great names, and then he drops an album with Will Smith featuring. Jesus,
imagine it. Like, I mean, is it any weirder than have like when this year the Weeknd put out an album and the final track is a spoken word piece by Jim Carrey? Like, I mean, is it really weirder than that? Like,
I was gonna say we got 2 Chainz and Morgan Freeman, so
yeah,
who
like,
knows? We gotta find a trend.
Will Smith is like a hip hop artist famous for his connection to LA. Like,
oh man, that would be great.
That would be hilarious. I would love. Oh
if that happened, by the way, is it like we called that? Nah.
Yeah. So
I would never shut up about it.
If we called that, if Will Smith is on this album, this will be we are the Nostradamus. Like, oh my god. Okay, so something I want to put you on the spot, and this is like active like podcast concepting that we're gonna let people listen to.
Okay.
How many weeks do you think it's gonna be between May 13th, when this album comes out, and when we decide to do a deep dive on it? Because I think like it's gonna be. If there was ever a time to start doing deep dives on fresh albums, time to get on the train. It's this one.
I was gonna say, considering the importance of this one, I would say it would probably be the next week. We would probably talk about it the next week.
We might want to give it a week. We might want to do it like a week and a half. Like we'll probably do like one the week after it comes out because it comes out on a Friday. And like
we're gonna say 2 weeks, but the next week we're gonna be talking about it.
We'll see.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, we got a lot to cover, so we've still got so much, but we actually did get through the news in a relatively good amount of time. So, Purvis
made it. I will say, Brandon, this is debatably, because remember when we first started talking about like starting this podcast, it was like we need a list of topics of like stuff that's actually interesting and that we care about.
Yeah.
We already did Chance and how he fell off.
Yeah.
We already did Dreamville.
We are actively following the story of Chance, by the way. Yeah. Oh, he's releasing music that comes on.
I know. I'm very happy.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. Maybe that would be one of the first deep dive.
No, it's got to be Kendrick. Like unless it's before Kendrick, which I don't think it's gonna be.
We'll see. I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I would say, this topic was debatably one of the most exciting one for me. I Felt like it was very important to talk about. It's one of my golden child artists. I think the album is a classic, which we will discuss.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, like, the album alone would justify us talking about it, right? But recently,
there is so much more.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure everyone here is familiar with the Astroworld festival that happens, the crowd crush incident at last year's Astroworld, where 8 people were killed. So it seems like it's going to be very, very hard for us to talk about the album without talking about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about both. Question for you, Purvis, is do we want to start talking about the album or do we want to start talking about the festival?
I feel like we should go in order. So the album first.
Okay.
I feel like we could do the build up to the album because we kind of talked about that before in one of the other episodes, like how the marketing before the album, how does it play effect on the album?
Yeah, so...
And then we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, okay, so we'll go chronologically. So, tell me about... Give me a rundown, because this is something you're very passionate about, so I'm going to give you the floor.
Gonna give you the floor. I mean, I've talked about it many times. I like Travis Scott a lot. I've recently discovered him in the past couple of years. Starting up from very humble beginnings. He is, well, he's got an asterisk on his name now. One of the biggest names in the game right now. He has everything going for him in terms of deals. He got shoes, clothes, food. He's got a Netflix movie about him or a documentary about him. So he was hitting every corner of the industry. And he has multiple great albums leading up to this. I think Birds in the Trap is one of my top 3 albums I've listened to ever. And then obviously Rodeo is unbelievably well known. And he has a lot of energy, so
he does
wait to Astroworld.
If there is one thing I can say about Travis Scott is that dude has energy. Yeah, he has energy. And you know what? He
can bring the party.
The other thing he has that like is very, very special and ultimately, as far as commercial viability, probably the most important thing for an artist, he has a sound. Mm-hmm. Right? I think that sound has its limitations, and we'll talk about that. But you know a Travis Scott song the second it's on. Unless, of course, it's a song where he's a feature on, and they just make it a Travis Scott song. Because they sound so unique that... And I think the best... a good example is Chopsticks, the Schoolboy Q song featuring Travis Scott. Mm-hmm. I think that's like the most clear example of like, okay, they just want this to sound like a Travis Scott song.
I feel like, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that was another point I was going to make later. The like important details around his sound and what makes him him and very unique. Like it's a very psychedelic rap that he has almost mastered.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
Every single one of his albums, you feel you don't even have to like. You don't even have to drink or smoke or do any of those things or be under the influence. You can literally just sit there and listen to these albums and feel like you're at a party or feel like you're under the influence or whatever it might be because he just captures that sound to bring it to life. And sorry, I'm like carrying on.
No. So first off, I love, yes, he has more or less invented the psychedelic rap sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be an album or that might surpass his take on the psychedelic rap sound, and we'll get to that. But I think he invented it. Like he's the one who created this thing, and especially because I'm a sucker for like old school psychedelic rock, and like when you go back and you listen to it, he really did do he definitely listened to that stuff because he pulled a lot of the effects directly from there. And I do not say that. I say that as a compliment because he took like those effects, like the really, really reverby vocals. That's like something that was originally pioneered in like the 70s with rock bands. And like he really took that and put it into a rap sound and made it sound natural and exciting and cool. And
Right.
that
Something everybody wants.
and yeah, and just like the pure alchemy of it that he created, and like not on his own, but like certainly the tip of the spear at the very least.
Hmm.
Uh,
I mean, everything about his persona carries that same demeanor and that same message of that psychedelic rock, which feeds into his music, which feeds into his fans,
yeah,
which like you know, even prior to the incident that happened, and I feel like that kind of feeds into the topic later that we're going to break down. But you know, when you're going to these concerts, you have a full expectation of like this
it's a
is going
riot.
to
Yeah,
be a riot,
yeah,
like
it is
like to
like
the full extent.
definitely, yeah, and
And we've talked about this when you were saying it's a little bit different. I forget which. I think it was a band. It was a rock band that you brought up. Like before they do a song, they literally would tell the crowd like, "Hey, like you might want to turn off your cameras."
that was Run the Jewels. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, they
and I
were
remember
like,
you bringing that up. I couldn't remember the name, but like, go ahead.
no, yeah, they just before they came out and they did their song "Close Your Eyes," he was like, "Hey, I see you guys have your phones. That's cool. We don't mind as the people on the stage, but for this next song, you're gonna want to put that shit away." And like, well, no, I'm actually really happy you brought that up because like when Astroworld happens, like when that song hit, like, and I saw video of Astroworld, it was like this was 2 degrees away from being that. So we're gonna touch back on that because I think that that's like actually an experience I want to draw from to talk about the event side of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah,
But
he's a very high energy guy.
yes, and so like you said, there was a time period. I swear, and I can't make this up. I wish I took the time to make the list of albums because I remember we talked about this last year. But there is a good list of five, six, maybe seven rap albums that came out back to back to back over a couple of months by totally different artists, all different people in the game. Each one of them had a Travis feature, and it was literally a Travis Scott song in the middle of their album.
Yeah,
Like that's how impactful he was.
yeah, and like sometimes it works. I do think, especially since Astroworld, I do think Travis Scott has gotten much better on features.
Hmm.
For a long time, I did not really. I thought he put out bad features. Like I liked his music because like I wasn't super into it. Like Rodeo was just like it came out my first year away at school, so like I was just engulfed in it. Like everyone was listening to it. It was on at every bar, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Like I listened to the hits from that album a lot, and it's an album I revisited a lot more than I think I thought I would when it came out. But then, like at first, I bounced off Birds in the Trap. Like I just thought it was very shallow, and I've come around on that. But then when Astroworld came out, I was like, oh, this is because this is probably I bounce between if this or if Rodeo is my favorite of his album.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that wasn't that one of the people that kind of put you on, or like
yeah.
was
No,
kind of
you were.
pushing you at least?
I had heard Travis Scott. Like I was aware of who Travis Scott was,
Right.
and like one of the main reasons why I was apprehensive to do like a deep dive is because he kept showing up on other people's music and being not good.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like I remember there was a song he did with Belly like early in his career called White Girls, and it's just the worst song.
I don't even know that's impressive because you know how I like Travis Scott. I don't even know the song.
Yeah, like, and I just
Okay.
remember like, oh, Travis Scott, because at first it was like, oh, Travis Scott shows up and he ruins the album, and that stopped being the
The
case.
whole album.
Yeah, not you ruined the vibe for a little bit, but that certainly stopped being the case. I think like his features have definitely gotten much better. You know, like I thought he was. God, what's the song he's on Donda?
Donda?
Yeah, he's on a song on Donda. Is it Praise
Oh,
God?
he is on the song. Man,
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's Praise God. I love that
Okay.
song. Yeah, that's. I thought he was a essential feature in that. Like that song is purely better for him being on it, and like there are other examples too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but when I
Okay.
listened to this, it felt like I don't know, it felt kind of mature a little bit more. I would say.
Well, what I am interested in, and I'm just going to bring it to the podcast because we've been talking about it for quite some time.
Go ahead.
Um, and we've talked about his features for a while, but like you said, we're getting to the actual album himself and the music that he puts out himself. We've teased and kind of talked about is this a classic or not, just in our own conversation for months now.
Yeah, this is the most fun classic conversation, I think.
And so I know previously your opinion on it was your answer at least was not yet,
Yes, that is my
as
official
in
position.
it has the possibilities in the future.
Yes.
How will you? And my question for you is, how are you knowing that changes? At what point do you go, okay, it's a classic now? What do you? What's that? What needs to happen for you to like say it's a classic?
I think it's a very soft thing. I don't think it's mathematical. I don't think it's like, oh, like when it does X, that's when it becomes a classic. I'll be honest, like one, I think the biggest argument against it being a classic, I think, is that it just might not be Travis Scott's best album. Like
Okay.
which to me, considering the fact that his albums they're not as dynamic as someone like Kanye or even someone like Kid Cudi, they all sound so similar. Like, can he have multiple classics if that's just his sound? I
Would you call Rodeo a classic then?
I might call Rodeo a classic, but at the same time,
Okay.
but the thing is, I might, but I also might call Astroworld a classic. So the thing is, I think what I want to do is I definitely want to wait a little bit longer and see the cultural impact factor. Because right now, while I think Rodeo and Astroworld will be albums that hold up for a very long time that I will enjoy listening to for almost certainly the rest of my life, I'm not 100% sold that the cultural impact they had was positive or mostly positive. Because with the exception of Don Tolliver, I don't think any of the Travis Scott clones in the past few years, because there's been a few, I don't think any of them have been particularly compelling. Like, I don't think the trend he started when it gets to other artists, when it fully leaves Travis Scott, I don't think it's been purely positive. And while I think the album is very, very, very good, I don't think it's good enough that we can just completely ignore the cultural impact part of it. Because I don't think
Okay.
that's always necessary, but I think because this is when we talk about like, is it a classic? It's so specific to that piece of work. So I think for this one, like, yeah, I want to see how the cultural aspect plays out. I have a feeling it'll ultimately be a positive thing. Like once there's like an effect. It's like basically like most of anything is probably garbage, and after the test of time, you can see like what is and what isn't. And the other thing is that this is a relatively new album. It's
It
less than
is.
it's less than 5 years old, and I'll be honest, not a whole lot of albums that I will completely and totally without being a shithead like say are classics that are less than 5 years old.
That quickly. I was gonna say literally like instantaneously.
Yeah, there are some. There
But
are
they're very
some.
few, obviously,
Very,
right?
very, very
There's a
few.
few, but right.
Very, very, very few. You know.
And these are the best works of music that we've talked about.
And the other thing is that I think, first off, like, is it a classic? Is not like it's not an award to be won. It's a conversation to be had because everyone is gonna have a different opinion. Like, no one's list of classics is gonna line up 100%.
Right.
Um, and even because I think they're relatively comparable artists. I think they're gonna come up with a bunch. But like, if I ask you to name all the classics you can think of, you're probably not gonna list Run the Jewels too. But if I said it to you, you'd probably agree, right? Like, so it's a very
Right.
vacuous thing.
Yeah, and that's very, very true. I feel like
Now,
obviously it's very opinion based.
but yeah, it's very opinion based. And the other thing is that, like, your relationship with a piece of art changes over time. And
Depending
I'll
on where you're at in life, how it hits you.
yeah, and I'll say this: so far, even considering the elephant in the room, I think the music on Astroworld has aged pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why don't we actually? What do you have to say about the classic album? Like, what is your your ultimate argument for this is a classic and this is why?
I will say, like, what you just brought up was a very good point, and I haven't really looked at it at that point of view. Um, the idea of like the cultural impact, because you're right. Obviously, when he's done and passing the baton off, it's going to be Don Toliver, who's already made a name.
Yeah, and like,
But
and here's another thing: I like Don Toliver. I 100% believe Don Toliver will put out music that I will really, really like, but he hasn't done it yet. At least not for me.
okay, I mean, I like a lot of his music.
That's
I
fine.
would
Yeah, that's
say
totally fair. Like,
it's difficult because the thing is, like you said, he is the main person, but I feel like the the other artists that could build off of psychedelic rap and make it grow and expand it to something even bigger than what it originally was.
yeah,
The only aspects that they took out of it was the energy part. I don't hear anyone ever making sounds like you would hear from Travis. It's the energy vibes behind it, and it might be some of the 808s and things like that. But like you said, when you click play on a Travis Scott song, you know it's a Travis Scott song. You can't mix it with anyone else.
no, you can't. And like, there is one project. There is one project that I think took this sound and did something that even Travis couldn't do with it. But even that one, you turn it on. One, you can tell that it was influenced by Travis, and two, you can tell it's not. Even though I think it's better, and that's Kids See Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kids See Ghosts. That's the other argument against Astroworld being a classic for me. It's just like 2.5 months earlier, another album that he was damn near on. Like,
I mean, his biggest influence is Kid Cudi as well. So
yeah, like
you're talking about the same cultural influence on everything.
yeah, exactly same. But I think it's fair to say that Kids See Ghosts, even for as short as it is like a more complete and
because it's compact. If they had as many songs, I don't know.
well, because I disagree.
The sound does wear off over time.
I don't necessarily think that's true, especially on Astroworld, because I think the best part about Astroworld, now that we actually talk about the music on the album, like I think the best part of it is that I think it's far more diverse sonically than like the rest of his discography. Like you have Wake Up, which is like we kind of joked that like he should be forced to sit on a bench, but like I listened to that song and like it almost feels like he should be. Like it's like a very low-key song. And like there's a few of those,
Right.
Yosemite isn't like a super hype song.
Nope. Coffee Bean is an introspective one.
Yeah. And Coffee Bean's like much more hip hop, or like much more like hardcore hip hop in my opinion. And yeah, like so that's the argument for Astroworld, I guess, is that it's certainly like his most evolved sounds. Now, another question while we're on the classic point is, do you think your opinion would change if Travis Scott dropped like his My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, like something that was just so good it took the air out of the room of everything else? Like something
that's actually a really good question.
Like something that was universally considered by fans and critics to be better than Astroworld. Which is, something that happened. To Pimp a Butterfly is a great example of that. Like,
right.
Do you think?
I mean, it's tough because that's a really good point that I didn't consider either. Because when you say something like that, I'm thinking about, like I said, my Dark Twisted Beautiful Fantasy. Like, obviously, that is a classic.
Yeah.
And so now I have to question myself and think like. Personally, I put The Life of Pablo behind that.
Yeah.
I put Heartbreaks on 808 right behind that. Do I consider both of those classics? And the answer is still yes. I do.
So like
And I honestly think I would consider Astroworld a classic, and if he produced or released something even better.
Yeah.
Because when I sit down, the way I personally think about a classic, if I'm sitting down just chilling, you can be playing a game, commuting, work, whatever it might be, and you have your music on shuffle, and all of a sudden the song comes on and it like instantly changes your mood. Like
yeah.
the song by itself is like, wow, I missed this. I don't know how long it's been since I listened to it. I don't care, but I need to listen to it right now. You stop the shuffle, you play the whole album. And if I'm sitting there chilling and Nights comes on, I'm going to look up Blonde and listen to the whole album because it's a classic. There's never going to be a situation where I sit down and go, I'm not really in the mood.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's always going to put me in the mood. And I feel like Astroworld does that. Any song, okay, there might be 2 or 3 exceptions. But any song that comes on from Astroworld, if I hear just one verse, I'm like, all right, I got to listen to the album now.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Because I'm not in that position, but I am in probably what's one step below that. And that is, I don't know if there's many tracks that I would, if I heard it come on from Astroworld, like on shuffle, that I would skip. It does not have a whole lot of songs. I'm looking at it right now that I would skip.
Like all of them are really good songs in their own right. Not even like looking at an album. These are just really good songs.
Yeah. It is insane how how many writers are on some of these songs.
Yes.
That's another thing is I think that's a criticism of Travis Scott that I think a lot of people have, and I think it is kind of fair, is that it kind of shows like how far we've gotten from like, okay, one guy's doing beats, one guy's making music. You know what I mean?
You got about 20, 30 brains on a song right now.
Yeah. And yeah, like, and it's one thing like when you have, 2 artists on a song and they each write their parts. Okay, obvious. But that's just an opinion I have.
Do you apply that opinion where like, okay, you're looking at, let's just look at the biggest one. You're looking at Sicko Mode. There is, obviously,
that has the most writers, and it's also probably the best song on the album.
Obviously, but you're looking at 40 or 50 brains working on a song. Obviously, you have him, you have Drake as the top writers, but there's so many other people working on the song.
Yeah.
Is it his sound? Do you apply this to the albums? Do you judge other albums? I mean, everyone made fun of Drake when he had a ghostwriter.
Well, it's not necessarily like my thing is that it's not necessarily like it's not a bad thing. It's just a fact. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And to me, like Travis Scott, like what's cool is that he's such an evolution of the hip hop sound, right? And when you evolve the hip hop sound, you're going to evolve the hip hop culture, and like when you're playing to arenas, eventually you're going to start making music like the artists who play to arenas, and this is how it happens. And I think it's a great example because low key, the fact that there are fucking damn near 30 writers on Sicko Mode, and it sounds like so focused, and like everyone from you to the dudes at Pitchfork agree on that. Like, I think that's a sign that he's a really, really talented producer, right? So I think like it all comes down to the context.
Okay.
Like
it's more impressive that he was able to do that. Okay.
In that specific instance, but
right.
I think we could all agree that typically that's not a good sign.
Okay.
And
you brought up, kind of going off of that, you brought up Pitchfork at the end. Like you're saying everyone universally is saying like, okay, this is one of the best songs on the album. It's gotten its awards. This loss to Cardi B. And obviously we've talked about this. We don't care about the Grammys that much. But still, as it is a part of the culture, we do have to discuss it. Does that take away, personally for you, does that take away from the album that it did not really win anything? A lot of other classics that we mentioned are also classics because they're well known and well liked by critics and fans.
See,
does that play in a part of this.
See, the thing is that I would not equate, like, first off, I think critics, even like critics I like, I think they're wildly irrelevant because the art that is good and the art that it sells is not a one-to-one thing. And on top of that, I would not equate being winning a Grammy with getting a good review. I believe Anthony Fantano gave this like a relatively positive review. I can look up the Pitchfork review right now. And I use Pitchfork like almost tongue in cheekly because their hip hop coverage is hysterically bad.
They have a very bad history,
and that's what I mean, right? Like Pitchfork gave it an 8 out of 10, right? Like this. So like,
go ahead, just say it.
Yes, but
just say it.
But I mean, like Pitchfork giving this an 8, even though I don't give a shit about Pitchfork, I think this matters way more than winning a Grammy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
100%. And especially like when you talk about like, is it a classic? Like the fact that once again, everyone from people who are pretty out of touch to people who are really in touch, when everyone is saying like, yeah, this is at least a very good album, I genuinely think that matters way more than a Grammy. And even that I think is wildly irrelevant in like what is actually big in the culture. You know, just look at how many people tried to take down Chief Keef, but that dude still took over hip hop.
Yeah, they definitely was not going to give them no awards.
Yeah, so like that's my pick, you know. But also, just for the fun of it, what else was it nominated against? Do you know?
Besides the Cardi B one that won, which right now?
Which of course it was the most popular one, and the billboards are ran by advertisers.
No way that happened.
It's a conspiracy, and it's called capitalism.
Yeah, I can tell you right now. Who else did she win over? Okay, so you had Igor, which is actually, considering that it is ran by publicists, or not publicists, but just marketing people, I'm surprised Igor didn't win.
Oh yeah, like Igor is absolutely like
considering it's Tyler. He's like one of the biggest names.
Yeah. But was he at the time? And was he as big as Cardi B at the time? Like I agree that he was
off of Flower Boy. Or was that after Igor?
Flower Boy was like a big creative turning point for him, but I don't know if he was like the rock star he is now then. And even if he was closer to that than he was like in his Goblin years, like he was probably still less popular than Cardi B, because Cardi B was everywhere. Everyone was listening to Cardi B, and like, also I'm just gonna say this, with like some time, her best songs not bad. Like the two, like Bodak Yellow, that's a good song. Like,
it is.
Yeah,
but it should not have beaten that or Revenge of the Dreamers 3, which we've done a whole episode on.
Yeah.
I Am is greater than I was.
Yeah.
21 Savage. Swimming, Mac Miller. Astroworld itself. Daytona. Pusha T.
Daytona.
Champions, Meek Mill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some more tomorrow. Champions, Meek Miller. Meek Mill. And the Lost Boys Corday. Which I feel like they're just kind of doing there, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Interesting.
So,
Interesting. Yeah, no, I don't think that matters at all. I guess ultimately that's my answer. Is that just like I want to see how it plays out a little bit more, like just like how the influence goes. I think his next album is really going to color my opinion on this.
Okay, I kind of have to come back to it and see it as a whole in comparison.
And just because it's Travis Scott, and like something just to pick up on something you said earlier when you were talking about Kanye having like multiple classics. I agree. I think it's definitely possible for artists to have multiple classics. But I think in order to do that, I think your sound has to evolve. And Kanye is not just a dynamic artist, he's debatably the most dynamic. Like in terms of how different his albums can sound. And I think it's fair to say that Travis like has just been evolving this one sound. And like, look, it's a great sound, but it's one sound. So if Utopia comes out and it's like a new direction that has all the strengths of Astroworld, but it sounds completely different, yeah, I might call both of them classic. But we have to see if that happens.
To see the progression. It does help to see the progression because I've definitely been like, and the greatest example for myself is I've done it multiple times with Drake. Like Drake will release an album, and I'll be like, it's alright, and then more comes out, and I'm like, oh, it's getting better, and then I have to go back and be like, oh, this was actually really, really good.
Oh,
like,
that's best thing that happened to me.
I just wasn't hitting.
Best example of that when that happened to me was if you're reading this, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's one of them that I did it with.
Yeah, but fuck, man, it is just interesting. It's just, I think this album just like is such a hotly debated classic. And okay, something I just want to bring to your attention, right?
Okay.
And just like through social media, like being on social media, being involved in these conversations on the internet, you don't think that there's like a specific subset of people who are very eager to make Astroworld a classic? And basically, I mean like overzealous Travis Scott types. The dude has like the dude has cultivated a very specific fan base. I think lots of people fuck with Travis Scott, but I think like his hardcore fan base is like a type. Which is,
I would agree. But I feel like even still, it's more than him pushing the agenda of if this is a classic or not. For people that actually care, like people that I feel like it's not actually that big of a discussion. I don't feel like people are sitting and thinking Astroworld is a classic in general. I feel like the people that it affects or actually cares about it, he has a very passionate and strong fan base, and I think they're using fairly good judgment.
yeah.
But you're correct. They do have, and I mean that's what any artist that you do enjoy. You raise them up to a higher pedestal, but they're on their knees for Travis. Is the best way to say.
Yeah, it's just something I've noticed, like specifically with him. I mean, like don't get me wrong, like Travis fans aren't the worst. That would be Kanye West fans, and there's two of them right here. They're in the podcast. But like,
you know. I think about when I think about like crazy fans that are like way too much on the artist, one step past Travis Scott, because you're right. People who go to these festivals, and I am 100% one of them, he's one of the dream artists that I would want to go see live. I would go there to be in a ride. I know what I'm getting in myself into. I am recovering from a torn ACL. I don't care. I would jump in there and I would go stupid. And I wouldn't know what the risks are.
Yeah.
One step past that is Playboy Cardi friend.
Oh yeah,
they're actually insane. Like they're actually insane, and I'm also one of them. But like true fans, like no, they like live it as a culture. It's insane.
Some of them think they're vampires.
Literally.
You are definitely the kid who thinks he's a vampire version of a Travis Scott fan.
Yeah, no, not that. But that's one thing that I would at least give Travis Scott fans is like they're not as crazy as other fan bases. That's why I feel like they still use somewhat sound judgment because people still judge him for some of his older stuff that's not as good. I feel like.
Yeah.
And when he had many of those features that you mentioned that weren't good, yeah, we know it's not good.
Yeah, but I'm definitely willing to overlook that, like, just as he's gonna grow.
Yes, it's true. He is young. To be fair, we keep forgetting that. Like a lot of these people that we're talking about is still fairly young.
All right, so you think it's time to pivot a bit?
It is time to pivot into the event. Speaking of these crazy fans.
Yeah, so I feel like it would be.
Background?
Well, I definitely think it's possible to talk about Astroworld without also talking about Astroworld. I think as a podcast with a platform, that's hilarious. I think it's like I think it's important that we talk about both, and we've always had that understanding. Uh,
We knew that it was going to include
yeah, and
we knew.
unfortunately, I think we can all. I actually think we probably agree on this subject a lot more. like,
Yes,
and
definitely.
that is just Travis Scott not is almost certainly not fully culpable, but he is at least partly responsible for what happened
Yes.
at Astroworld. And to
Um,
run it down, I'm sure this needs even less introduction than the album. But in last November, November 8th, there was a crowd rush at the Astroworld Festival in Texas, and it killed 8 people, including some children.
mhm.
And that is not good, especially because Travis Scott has a history of just doing some shisty things. So I
Yes.
do want to get your thoughts on it first, because just because I'm someone who is very much about calling out people who could prevent things, uh, like
Yes.
I'm just that kind of person. So like I want to make sure that we get you first before I ruin the vibe.
Come on, word up. What I would say is this. And I know one of the biggest questions we had in terms of this conversation is, and you kind of touched on it, like who is to blame, or who could have prevented it, or what steps need to be taken. It's tough because we're looking back at it with a clearer vision and a clearer mindset. But I will say, in the moment, it was a lot more confusion going around
Yeah,
about who I feel like was to blame.
as it always
And
is.
I, right, right. And I feel like my initial take on everything was that there was a mixed opinion on who's to blame. I feel like a lot of people was at fault for what was happening. Obviously, Travis Scott is the main person himself. It is his festival. He's up on stage. He can, well, we think, and it is at least to believe that he can see and hear everything. He's the best person with the best vision. He's the one on stage. He can see the ambulances driving through the crowd, people calling for help. You have fans jumping up on the stand where the lights are, telling people to stop using the lights, and they don't stop because they're working for the event. So obviously, Travis is at fault. I feel like the people that ran the event is also at fault. You had details about there's only 3 water stations, which is insane for that massive part of crowd. The initial setup, they knew that people were jumping the fence. I believe the police marshal came to visit him before the event and warned him that like, hey, people are like jumping the fence. The numbers are getting way too large. Like it's not recommended to go up there, and he still did it. So with that being said, there's so many things. He's at fault. The event people are at fault. The police are at fault. The ambulance not supplying enough is at fault. Like it's a lot of pointing fingers.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, there's really only one person that could stop it, and it is Travis Scott.
yeah, and like it's really really hard to to not just completely point at Travis Scott, not necessarily because there's a kind of a history of this. Here at Lollapalooza in our own city, like he literally told people to ignore security and like to rush to the stage. So
Which he
it
is
is,
now kicked out of Walla for.
yeah. So it is absolutely possible that it is absolutely true, not possible. It's absolutely true that Travis Scott is just like his behavior like encourages this really really extra rowdy uh behavior. And like look,
Yeah, mindset, all of it.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because like look, I've been to punk concerts and metal shows. Like that shit gets really really rough too. But like I've never seen it get to that level. And like there was one time it got close, and I've mentioned it earlier, but I just think it's unfortunate what happened. And yeah, I agree that it is absolutely the fault of multiple people. But I think Travis Scott's behavior in previously and leading up to that is absolutely a factor. And I think there are a lot of people that want to pin it on him exclusively, and that's wrong. I also think there are people who want to completely
dismiss him,
dismiss
like
it, and like he didn't do, like he had no part of it, and I also think that's wrong. And like, even if I don't necessarily disbelieve that Travis Scott like did it, because apparently like people thought, because I have the Wikipedia thing right here. Apparently, like he went to a party afterward.
Yep.
And like he found out then, and then he left immediately to go back. And
I was
like,
going to say the night of when it happened, it's blowing up on Twitter. He claims to have no idea that it happened. Like he didn't know people.
Yeah, like, and like on one end, like I don't necessarily disbelieve that, but that's not an excuse, right? Like, it just ignorance is not innocent. Another thing that I just want to point out here is like there also is the possibility that he is on substances on stage that almost certainly affect his ability to perceive and his ability to make judgments. Right. So I think that's like, another factor that we should probably think about.
Yes, and that's something I actually want to talk about as well because, like I said, I think he should obviously take the most blame, although it should be shared amongst multiple reasons and multiple people.
Yeah.
The one justice that he had. Sorry, you were going to say that?
Another group that I think has a fair amount of blame, just like if we're going to talk about people who are completely disconnected from Travis Scott, who I think hold like some culpability, I think we should talk about NRG Park really quick. Because there was a similar incident at a Playboy Cardi contest 2 weeks before the Astroworld at the same location. And that one, there was no like fatalities and there were no police reports. So there's a lot less information about it because that's like when a lot of information gets released is when it has to like interface with the public sector in some ways. But apparently, like a similar thing happened, just 2 weeks earlier, and you have someone like Travis Scott who is hosting a festival and is known for this level of intensity. You need to batten down the hatches, or you need to let his team know what happens. And then, like, yes. And there doesn't seem to be any details about like whether or not that happens.
That's one of the biggest things that I feel like they take blame for as well, because obviously Travis Scott is the main person that could have shot the show because he's the one running the show. But at some point, you got to think, why is there not multiple people throughout the crowd, multiple security guards, multiple resources or other managers running the event for Live Nation that can pull the plug? Like, there needs to be a safety net, obviously, for anything. Like, doesn't even matter if it's a trap concert by Travis Scott. It could be a concert with Taylor Swift about pop music. There needs to be procedures taken. We're like, okay, we're shutting down, like cut the lights. And I feel like that wasn't taken into consideration because the value of the lives were not important to them.
Yeah, I agree.
At no point, you have to take into, and this is what I was going to say earlier, to give him some justice. It, coupled with possibly being under the influence, you have to think on the stage, this man has roller coasters in his concert. He has smoke machines. He literally has flamethrowers like built into like shoot flames up. There is 10,000 speakers on blast. This man cannot see or hear or think of anything while he's performing. Like, the man is performing. He's doing a job. How is there not someone there to assist him if you see all this commotion in the crowd?
That's look, I definitely think that's true, right? Like, there needs to be some level of a response team, like off stage, because just as someone who has been on stage with lights on me, yeah, like it's really hard to see anything past like 10 feet.
Yeah.
Like when you came to my comedy show, like I couldn't see anything past your table, right? So yeah, that's true. But my own personal experiences make me critical of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'll circle back to that Run the Jewels concert, because when they played that one song, like, it was a riot. I've quite literally been in riots that were less violent than the mosh pit for this song. Like, it's so bad that, like, I really couldn't enjoy it. There were a few girls with us who were, like, in danger, like, legitimately, like, in pain. And keep in mind, this had zero. This incident led not only to, like, zero injuries, unless there, except of, like, overdoses, because there were definitely people overdosing in the crowd. But, like, there were no injuries. No one even had to go to a med tent, right? And earlier in that performance, Killer Mike stopped and, like, called out a dude for harassing a girl. And this is at Riot Fest. This is every bit as many people as Astroworld. And this dude was able
So imagine that's Where's Waldo. Like
huh?
that's finding someone in the middle of nowhere. How he can point that out.
Yeah. So like it's certainly, like, there's an element of, no, there are certainly artists who are able to take these energies and keep it from getting too wild, or keep it from getting deadly. Like, because I would even argue Run the Jewels let it get, like, maybe even a little too bad. like
Mm-hmm.
like uh
And that's a good point saying that because putting emphasis on like using energy and properly dispersing it into where it needs to go. Travis Scott does not do that. He does the opposite.
yeah,
Feeds off the energy, and he will now carry that to go farther.
yeah,
And so, as you mentioned, you have these smaller women with you, and they're actually in pain at this concert.
yeah,
Could you imagine how much further steps you needed to take where you have people literally dying?
yeah.
Like
10
there's no simple
fatalities,
way to
like,
put it. Like there's no simpler way to put it. Drake comes on stage, they perform their song together, everyone pushes forward. You have people dying. Like that is difficult.
yeah, it's difficult. And, like, the other thing is that, and this is unfortunate, because as much as we can say that Travis is culpable, and I definitely agree with that, like, we just made a 30-minute long argument that he is, right? If Travis did, like, stop the show, like, if he did the best thing possible, what really would have been the difference, right? If he completely stopped the show, which is what would be considered to be the extreme opposite direction result, it probably would have turned into a riot. Like, that's not to say he did the right thing, but it's also like, he's kind of between a rock and a hard place. But unfortunately, when you cultivate this kind of behavior, which he does, and foolishly, you reap what you sow.
Yes. You have to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah,
You make songs that cause that type of demeanor and attitude, and you've known repeatedly to create different concerts with this energy, have interviews like showing off this energy. You're known to be almost not a negative influence, but a negative person to be around and to work with in the industry.
yeah. Oh,
You have
that's that.
producers telling their stories,
Yeah, that's the
and
other
like
thing.
there's a bunch of
Like,
stuff.
if you're
Right.
not
Go ahead.
also a charting artist, apparently Travis Scott is, like, really shitty to work with. And cut that out, man, because eventually I might turn on you for that. Like, I don't fuck
Hmm.
with people who are ungrateful to their workers.
And so now it's all coming back. Like,
Yeah.
not to say that it was hidden or people didn't know about it, but nobody,
No, but
if
the
you didn't
chickens came
really
home to
listen to Travis
roost.
Scott, right? If you didn't listen to Travis Scott, you didn't care. And so now it
Yeah.
takes something like this incident to happen, and all of these stories are coming out.
Yeah.
Like countless stories of like, oh yeah, Travis Scott did this, Travis Scott did that. Here's a video of him trying to beat up a fan for taking a shoot. Like, it's all going to come full circle
Yeah.
eventually.
Okay, so before we pivot to, like, a redemption arc, because I think Travis Scott is on that. There's two things I want to bring up, and I want to bring up one thing about culpability, and I want to get one thing about the cultural impact of this event right. Okay, so one of the biggest things that not many people talked about because it's more of the arena of politics, almost completely divorced from this. As a matter of fact, Travis Scott isn't even like in the report I'm bringing up, but the House of Representatives, their Committee on Oversight and Reform, opened an investigation against Live Nation, a bipartisan investigation, again because of the Astroworld event. And
Wow.
yeah, and there's a whole lot of details we don't know, but they more or less believe that they could be mostly culpable. So, active investigation, and Travis Scott is not even mentioned. So
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say what I do see. There's at least they had at least 10 OSHA violations.
yeah,
So like, yeah,
yeah. So that I think that's a very big important context because as much as you and me can talk about like, oh, Travis Scott is culpable, which he is, like it's important to note that people who know way more about the event, some of the most powerful people in the country, have investigated into Live Nation, and also Live Nation is a soulless corporation, and I don't doubt that their attempt to extract nothing as much profit as possible from Astroworld were as as responsible for this event happening as Travis Scott's history of rowdy behavior, or like encouraging dangerously rowdy behavior at his shows.
yes,
The other thing I want to bring up is almost like a more cultural response to the event, and that was a lot of people like turning this against Travis Scott and maybe even using this as like an argument against hip hop to say like, oh, this is like one of those things. A lot of people said like, oh, it's a sign of devil worship. You know,
yeah,
the right wing nut jobs in this country.
Right. They've been crazy with it.
So yeah, those people, like a lot of them are using this as like, oh, an example of like, oh, hip hop bad. And
Yes.
let's be honest, like most of it is racially motivated. And just to point out, like this has happened before. The Who, a rock band that I really like, by the way, old school rock band from the 60s and 70s, really good. They had a concert disaster, very similar thing that killed 11 people. So while this is a tragedy, and while we need to be actively discussing how we can prevent this from happening, we should also have perspective and realize this is something that has always happened. Astroworld was not a new thing. It was part of a long history of, you know, this kind of shit happening.
And that's one of the questions I was gonna ask, kind of leave it off with, at least in terms of like the event itself. And the looking forward, future wise, to future events. Because like you said, it's been happening for a while.
Yeah.
At what point, and in your own opinion, at what point do we start questioning the people? You know?
Oh, 100%.
Like the actual fans, how much blame do you put on them? Can you even put blame on them? How is it punishable? Is it not? Like, what? How much do we focus on the fans here? Because it's the people that ran over the people.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree that this is. I agree that this is like a dicey issue, and I think the issue is that it's different when you're talking about a mass of human beings. No individual person killed anyone. It was the collective action that led to the death of those human beings. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are absolutely some culpability you could put on the crowd. But one, I think the limits of our legal system make that a fool's errand. You know, what are you going to do? You're going to charge every single person there with, you know, low-level assault or murder? Like, it's...
I mean, the reason I was thinking about it...
But, like, you're on a moral level, you're totally right. Like, they are the people who actually killed someone. But, like...
The music didn't stop someone to death.
Yeah, and, like, Travis Scott didn't kill anyone, and Live Nation didn't kill anyone. They created the conditions for that to happen, right? And, you know, this happens everywhere.
I was going to say, I'm very glad that you brought up how they created the conditions because they laid out the groundwork for it to happen. Because the way that I was thinking about the situation, technically, it's illegal to yell fire, like in the movie theater.
There's no technicality about it. It is a very serious crime.
Right. So, well, I'm just saying, like this is a real law. This is a real crime. If you do it, you are punishable for it.
Yes.
If you go into a movie theater that has one or two exits or whatever, it doesn't matter how many exits it has. But I'm just saying, if you have this compact space, making it available for people to crush over each other, causing multiple different dangers. If you go into a movie theater and scream fire, even if there is a fire, you will be charged for it. So, do we look at Travis Scott and said, "Hey, you laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
Groundwork. You screamed goosebumps and not a fire,
Yeah.
and people trampled over each other."
I mean, if you're doing that analogy, then yeah, like Travis Scott is the guy who yelled fire in the theater, and historically, like, yeah, that's the bad guy. Like we say that phrase because that's the bad guy. Like,
So I was just curious, what would be your take? Because that's personally how I think about it. Like, obviously, I love the man. He's one of my golden childs. I love his music. But like, at some point, who's yelling fire? Who's doing it? You know, who's controlling it?
yeah, and he's controlling it, but he's also not doing it, and that's what makes these things so. I think it makes them so hard for people to like just wrap their mind around. Like, I don't know, man. It's such a unique confluence of events that just led to this event happening, and it's a tragedy. I wish we didn't have to talk about this.
Yeah, very true.
That's just it. I just wish we did not have to talk about this when we talk about this album. But unfortunately,
we would have saved 10 lives. It's so much that goes into it.
Very
10 precious lives.
Yeah, that's 10 human beings, right? That is 10 families that are no longer whole.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at it. Because like even beyond the scope, but like some stuff just happened, and it seemed like in life, and not to get religious tonight, but some stuff just happened like for no reason.
Yeah,
and you look at this kind of event, and it's like this happened for no reason, and that makes it so much worse.
Yeah. So another thing that I think is interesting is just looking at this Wikipedia entry. There's a list of artists that have basically there were videos going around from a list of artists that were basically like you couldn't tell the difference between that and Astroworld. Like they created very certain conditions. And it's a wide range of artists. It's like everyone from Kendrick Lamar to Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters to Lil Pump to Chris Martin to Kurt Cobain, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what is a piece of information that is implied by that is at all those shows, no one died. Like, so clearly, I think. Yeah, so clearly, I think you have to put the blame on the institution,
right?
Because this shit happens at other concerts. For all I know, like maybe Astroworld was not all that different from Run the Jewels at Riot Fest. Maybe if you were in my shoes and you're a 6'1", 300-pound man who can hold back a group of people
on his own, right?
Who was a football player for 12 years, and I had like 3 other dudes with me my size. Like, yeah, you can maybe protect the people around you. But even though I know just because of chatter around it that there wasn't any injuries or anything at this show, if it was happening on the other side of the stage, I wouldn't have known.
Nope. No idea.
Yeah. So.
And some of the deaths you see here, you see 9-year-old kid coma. You see 14-year-old kid, 27, 22, like young people.
And it's a shame, man. Shattered lives.
So
So let's pivot a little bit. Let's try and look towards the future, because ultimately, no matter when tragedy happens, that's just what you have to do. You have to look towards the future.
so going forward,
Yeah,
obviously there's going to be steps to prevent this.
yeah.
But does this take away from possible future concert like experiences?
I
Because
mean,
right away, like right after it happened, you had 3, 4 different like it could be a small concert. The artist was stopping the show. Say, hold on, are you okay? Like literally making not like a joke to make fun of, but like a joke like, hey, like this is super serious. We need to make sure everyone's safe.
yeah. No, it is very, very serious. It's a very serious thing. Ultimately, you just have to look forward. I know you had it. You had sent it to me, but it does seem that Travis Scott is trying to put good into the world after being the person behind this.
Yes, and I feel like I'm glad that you brought that up because we kind of discussed it slightly with Kanye, where it's like, okay, you need a redemption arc, and there's certain steps you need to take
Yeah,
to like, you need a break, you need to step away,
yeah.
you need to do certain stuff. Is Travis Scott taking these right steps? Because he stepped away from the light for quite a few months. This was back in November,
November.
so what we're talking 6 months, half a year before he put out a single tomorrow or tonight. You have multiple donations, different foundations built up. You partnered up with some like mental health application for those that were suffering and paid for it. Do you think, in terms of redemption arc, is he following the right steps? Is he even close? Is it too soon? Is it too late? Think?
I think it's too soon. Like, that's the thing. Like, so far, just like, because I remember when you sent me the information about the foundations he was giving, you can do some very rudimentary research. And when you look at how much actual money which is, let's be real, in this world, money talks. Like,
Money talks.
yeah,
So glad you said
I,
that.
I think, yeah, well, we're living in the horrors of capitalism. That's what happens. Like, uh,
Yes, bro. Yes.
uh, but I do think, like, the amount of money he's putting towards doing good, those are, I think those are good foundations he's setting up, and I think he's giving a lot of money, right? Is it ever going to be enough? No, it's never going to be enough. There is not anything he could
You
do.
can't put a price on
There's nothing
someone's
he
life.
could do that would make people be like, "Oh, okay, it's cool," right?
Right.
What he needs to do from now on is he could not have just changed mildly for the better over 6 months and like be fine. This change needs to be something that occurs over the rest of his life. Because, like, real talk, like, what if this happens again? Like,
Yeah.
if this happens
It's one
again, you
thing
think
to consider.
then he's done for.
There's no recovery.
There's
Yeah,
and
there's
I
no
think
recovery.
even people like us who are as big of fans as you are,
Don't even joke.
yeah,
You
but
are too.
like, no, yeah, no, I am certainly a fan of Travis Scott. Like, fan of the man. But as much as a fan of the man I am, wow, that was a rhyme.
This line.
Yeah, that's if it happens again, dude, I will not be able to look
Right.
past that. Right? This is something. This is
It's
going to need to
reasonable.
be a catalyst for growth for him, and a lot of it. And the other thing is, I think that's ultimately how I feel about his return. Like, do I think Travis Scott should eventually put out music? Yes. Do I think this year is too soon? Not necessarily. Do I think tomorrow is the right amount of time? I don't know. Maybe not. Like,
Right.
uh,
It's been 6 months. This is the first single, and at some point, you kind of gotta
you're gonna,
start questioning.
yeah. But the thing is, it's not a full 6 months. Let's be real. It's not even 6 months.
Yeah.
And like, I'll be honest. Like, I feel like if he was really making big changes, it would be longer than that. But the things he's done so far, I think, have been good, and that's what I hope for. And I just hope that
Right.
this is a turning point for him, not just as an artist creatively, but as a human being. Because, like,
Yes.
The fact of the matter is, like, if Travis Scott doesn't change, it will be a matter of time until like he is a persona non grata, and I just have zero interest in him, no matter how good his music is. And yeah, like it could not only poison his future work, but it would probably poison the stuff that came before. Now that's just me, and that's just me because as much as I like Rodeo and Astroworld, like they're not my favorite albums in the world. Like God forbid, like The Weeknd did that. That might be a different conversation. But like, I can't change my whole fucking life, Purvis. But like,
yeah, I understand. I do understand,
yeah.
and that's
like that's
like
and like if you were to say that to me about this, I get it. Like,
right. And even myself, like I would question 100% because going forward, not that it's going to poison his work going forward, but at some point, like you said, you got to grow up. Both, at least in the scope of this podcast, musically and just personally, he needs to grow up.
Yeah, he just certainly does. Yeah.
Are we going to hear a different sound? And when I say grow up, that means in terms of responsibility. You can make raging music, but you have to control how you present it.
Oh yeah. Look, I'll say this:
song that comes out tomorrow, if it's trap, cool, but how is it gonna come off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that might be the part where I'm willing to give him some leeway. Like if he like just evolves as a person and becomes like less of a shit human being, and like but like makes ultimately very similar music the way he made before, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it's most important for him to mature as a person. But the thing is, if he's actually the creative force we think he is, and he changes as a person, his music is going to change and soon.
Right. And will it be good?
I hope so. Oh boy.
We can do it. So.
We did it, Purvis.
Yeah, we finally went through it.
Yeah.
We finally went through it.
Yeah, this was wow. But it's a lot, man.
I mean, it was going to be one of the bigger topics. I feel like we kind of ran through our big stuff. We went through Dreamville. We went through Brockhampton. It was time.
This is our longest episode by 25%.
Jesus Christ! I don't even want to ask what time we're at.
2 hours.
Yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah, it definitely could be worse, but we got through the news in record time too.
It was a big subject. Should we just do the
recommendations? Let's do our recommendations. Let's do our recommendations. Let's sign off. I still got to go watch Moon Knight before I go to bed.
Let's just do 2 songs then. We'll do 2 songs.
No, we're gonna do 3. Don't ruin the tradition. We will. Fine. We will. We do 2 when we have a guest. All right, you go first.
Fine, go first. Okay, fine. You go first. First song. I don't know why, but I went back to listen to some old Wale. When I say old, 2015. The album About Nothing is so good.
I love the album About Nothing.
It's so good. It's the first time I went through it fully.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that good. There was so many songs that I recognized. That album is so good.
That album's so good. Fun fact. You know that FD Signifier guy I was telling you about? I've mentioned him, like, I think this is my 3rd time mentioning him on the show. He's a YouTube, he makes video essays. Wale tweeted out, like, yo, lately I've been fucking with, like, hour-long YouTube videos. Like, does anyone have any recommendations? And he started, like, interacting with FD Signifier, and I'm like, oh my god, do something together. Do something together. Make a video about Wale with Wale in it. Do it, please. Because I like Wale. I don't think Wale... I think that's an example of a guy who has just made good work, but has just never made anything great or classic. Yeah. The mixtape About Nothing is as close as it gets, which, hey, I love the mixtape About Nothing. And you know what's funny, Purvis? You want to know what's
Don't tell me he's about to do a song.
I have a song with Wale on it. It's not a Wale song.
Okay.
But he's a feature on it. And it is No Hands by Waka Flocka Flame, Roscoe Dash, and Wale. And the reason why I've been listening to this song is because of that killer Wale verse.
Okay. Mine was The Matrimony featuring Usher. That song's so good.
Is that your next one?
That was my first one.
Oh, yeah.
I never actually said the song. My next one then, my second one was be Me or Something by Nordo Wick featuring Future and Little Baby. I don't know why it came on shuffle, and man, it hit hard. The bass, trap, it's great. It's
Wow.
really good.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, I'm gonna get to the next one. This one you're gonna roast me for.
Oh
This one you're
God.
gonna roast me for a little bit. So, my buddy Christian, he's he's throwing a couple theme parties this summer because he has he just moved into a place with a rooftop,
Nice.
and he's like he has a party in May coming up, and he's like, oh, it's Western themed.
Western theme?
Yeah, like cowboys.
Yeah.
So me and my
Wait,
girlfriend
what
are
are you about to say?
me and my girlfriend were looking at the Old Town Road video for like inspiration for the outfit.
Oh my God.
And now I can't stop
Wow.
listening to it.
Really, bro?
Dude, it's a good song. Fuck off. Look, dude, I'm going to a concert with a bunch of not a concert. I'm going to a party with a bunch of what?
God, man.
What do you
That's
want me to
funny.
be? Oh, I could have watched Harder They Fall. That would have been closer.
Dude, you could have watched the Django. Come on.
Well, I can't do Django, because I can't be Django, and everyone else in Django is awful. And I'm going with my girlfriend. I don't want to be someone who owned people.
Okay, fine. I'll let that slide, but
Yeah.
still, you could at least get inspiration from something cool.
Yeah, that song's cool. Fuck off.
All right. Well, the last song for both of us. Then I'll just close it off. Mine is a lot softer, bro. So every once in a while, I just find like a random R&B artist and like a amazing piece of music, and I just text Eddie and be like, "Bro, this is the moment. Like, do it." And Eddie will listen to it. He said he listened to it, paused it halfway through, went to get his noise canceling headphones, replayed it, and he was sitting outside like, "Bro, that one hit." Almost cried. But the song is "Jealous" by Labyrinth. Oh my God. Like, it will put you in your feels instantly. It's so good.
Send that to me right now.
Like, so good.
Send it to me right
It
now.
is so good. I got you.
All right. Okay, my last one is almost cheating, but just off the episode we had last week, I just couldn't stop listening to Brockhampton. So
Okay.
Windows. It's one of their lesser known songs. It was off their latest album, which I feel like was definitely their least fanfare. And the reason I want to bring it up specifically to you is because it has probably the best outro ever.
That's a lot of pressure. You
That's
know
a
how
lot
I
of
feel
pressure.
about like 1999 Woodfire or something like that? I feel like that's one of the best outros.
This outro is like I'm comparing it to Faith. I'm like, is this as good as Faith? I think
All
it's
right,
better.
bro.
No, you gotta
Pause.
listen to it. You gotta listen to it. It's I'll tell you this much. It's a bareface. It's a bareface segment.
Ooh.
So
Okay, you might have got me. You might have got me.
yeah. So listen to it like tonight and
Bareface.
tell me what you think.
Oh man, you gotta be excited. Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the other thing is I like that song because it is very much like it is a rap song. They have another artist on it. I forget his name. So Gone So Flexy. He's a Texas rapper.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Now-
don't know what that is.
Yeah, he's a guest on it. He has a really, really hard verse. And then it's just a collection of very, very hard verses, and then debatably the best outro I've ever heard.
Man, putting a lot of pressure on this.
You're gonna
I
listen
am
to
excited.
it? Yeah.
I am excited. Like, I'm gonna listen to it as soon as this is.
Okay. Now, what were you gonna say? Because you were gonna say something in the part of the podcast that doesn't exist anymore because I edited it out.
No, I was just gonna correct myself. It wasn't 1999 Woodfire. It was 1998 Truman. That outro, I feel like, is the best Brockhampton outro.
This blows it away.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, all right, gentlemen.
Man, okay.
All right, ladies
I'm gonna
and
listen
gentlemen.
to it like now.
We did it. We are on the other side of an Astroworld episode. If you're still listening, shout out to you. You're a trooper. If you hear this right now, send us an email saying you got to the end of the Astroworld episode and send us a song and we'll just talk about it. You can just tell us what to talk about.
Literally.
So, Isaac, if you want to do that, just tell us what to talk about. All right.
It's gonna be like Kid Cudi, like right off the bat.
Almost
It's gonna
certainly.
be
It's fine. That's why I like Isaac.
you.
All right, guys. Good night, and we'll chat next week.
Till next time.